All right. We don't have to talk. Go ahead.
Hey, LA Progressive friends and family, you caught us, Dick and Sharon. We were in the middle of a conversation with our dear friend and regular contributor to the LA Progressive, Peter Larman. And Peter, why don't you? I don't have my words up here. Oh, okay. So Peter is a retired minister who formerly led Progressive Christians Uniting in Los Angeles, and in fact, that's how we met because I was surprised to find out that there was a progressive Christian organization that was working on social justice issues. I don't know, I kind of stumbled upon you, and that's how we met, and we've been friends ever since. I don't know how long that is. But we're having this conversation before we started taping, and I thought, oh no, we need to take this conversation. So, Dick, you were talking about how Peter Thiel and others love this oligarchy. They love to have so much control over the resources. And what about the rest of us? And my contention is, oh yeah, the rest of us love to just look the other way and just allow it to be that way. So, Peter, you wrote this really great piece about the president facing the great beyond. I don't know if you can tie all of those pieces into the message that you're delivering this week in the LA Progressive.
Well, maybe the tie is first of all, hello, and it's great to see you always. Um, Maybe the tie is that you can't buy heaven, right? And even Donald Trump kind of understands he can have his coin. I think I write that he can have a gold sarcophagus and put it on display in the new ballroom somewhere. He can do all that. Peter Thiel can buy New Zealand, which apparently he's doing, um, as his second home or fourth home. But you can't buy eternal happiness under the standard understanding that there's an afterlife that has, two doors, one door to eternal felicity and the other door to a very, very hot spot. And I thought it was kind of touching in a way that Trump, in his constant stream of consciousness, said a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, well, it looks like I may not have a great chance. I might be low on the totem pole. Interesting expression for, and I couldn't resist saying something about, oh, this has occurred to him that there might be consequences, that there might be karma, even, for living the kind of life that he's lived. I think I even linked it to his undoubted anxiety about the Epstein files, although I think that Pam Bondi is having these scrubbed even as we speak.
Right.
No, he takes evasive action, but I think he knows that at the pearly gates you can't take evasive action. So I make 2 points. One is that his understanding of religion is really crude, but also think about this. Um, he's now up against mortality. We'll call it. He's 79. No, um, and it's about time. I don't know that
So,
it's going to change his behavior.
so one thought I had as I read it, and I enjoyed your piece as I always do, and it's very clever. But I thought, in truth, what this is just the blatherings of a guy. He could be saying this to his golf buddies out on the 17th hole, or in a bar afterwards, or trying to pick up an 18-year-old girl. As many of us might say things, we wouldn't say the things he says, but we would say our things. But the problem is, everything he says gets put on the news in a loop, and everybody talks about it, and it becomes a discussion point, which I think that diminishes our society in some fashion.
Yes, and I try to avoid what's widely called Trump derangement syndrome. I just because I think religiously I couldn't resist
Oh no.
when I saw this picking up on it, and then of course I had to make the point. And this is a work of Mark Twain that almost nobody knows about because it was suppressed until the 1940s by his family because it is so, so savage. It's called Letters from the Earth, and it's 6 parts Satan reporting what he's learned about the humans. And Satan, it takes Twain's voice. Satan cannot believe that humans who are obsessed with sex would be interested in a sexless heaven. He just hammers away at that.
Right.
It's something. It's really something. It's scorching. It like burns off the page. Even
Wow.
now, even now. in his later life, Twain was a disenchanted person. I think his daughter had died or something. He was, in grief. He was
Yeah.
he had made a lot of money, but he pissed it away. Stupid investments, some kind of printing thing that never worked. Um, and his bitterness comes through loud and clear.
Mm.
We'll have to
I
link to
admire
it
him though, because he was one of the most outspoken anti-imperialists in this, and he even began to reckon a little bit with racism in his later life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I admire him too. He coupled his ability to write and to reach the common man with what I felt was deep thoughts. Um, and and he was extremely popular. He made himself wealthy. Of course, he lost a lot of that wealth with poor investments, but he made himself wealthy. Connecting with the common man. And I really have a deep appreciation for that. And he was very witty.
Oh yeah,
Part,
oh yeah,
partly what we were talking about before we turned on the camera was,
yeah.
it's hard to imagine sometimes what these people who are instituting these things that are sending the thugs around the streets to beat down gardeners, who are dismantling the education department, who are taking great delight in bombing fishermen in the West Indies. Um, and but I came across a small article about the fact that Peter Thiel and people of his ilk are pushing to reestablish aristocracy. They don't care about these people that are hurting. That's how, so it doesn't cause them any grief. Now, I don't know if that's true of Trump, because the only thing he really knows about is about himself and how he can get better. I don't think he thinks he's going to get into heaven, because I think he's going to rig it so he doesn't have to die.
Well, Dick Cheney tried that for a very long time, but ultimately we all get there.
And John D. Rockefeller had 4 heart transplants and lived almost 100.
Yeah.
It can be done.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Well, you're touching on something that concerns everybody, and that is uh, people who have openly declared themselves exempt from ordinary human behavior, and who actually think that the natural and normal state of affairs is to cause pain for others and extract their labor and extract their wealth, and to hell with so-called norms. I was intrigued again. I pay attention to this religious stuff. The article I think it was in the New York Times about the ortho bros. Have you heard about these young white men with beards who are flocking to the Greek Orthodox Church? Why are they flocking to the Greek Orthodox Church? Because it has discipline, and they say they like hard stuff. You have to do stuff. They also like the fact that the priests have beards like they do, and the priests have women, right? They're allowed to, have women and families. The thing that intrigued me is, why aren't the priests or whoever they are in the Greek Orthodox or the Orthodox Church asking themselves, what's this going to do to us to admit all these people? It's kind of like an internet phenomenon, but this article showed examples of all these young men. Again, these are mostly, kind of proto-violent young men wearing the Greek cross, with the double cross. It's a thing.
Wow.
Who knows? Religion's got, the last refuge of scoundrels, as somebody called it. Religion's got, plenty of adherents who are evil. But these billionaire, trillionaire ones are like, oh no, we don't have room for any kind of religion. We are the religion.
Yeah.
That's the Nietzschean, ambition. I'll use a big word, Nietzschean. Notice that Jeff Bezos calls his new AI thing Prometheus. I mean, even the language they use tells you what their aspiration is, which is to be gods.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be gods.
Well, we're talking a lot here about good and evil, but you quoted a scripture that talks about separating the sheep from the goats. And there, it's really not so much about good and evil as we would understand good and evil to be. It is about the ordinary people who simply stand by and do nothing, and people who jump in, who try to support and provide nourishment to the hungry, or housing to the unhoused, or visit the imprisoned, as opposed to those who do nothing and think that doing nothing somehow puts them in some kind of neutral category. Do you want to talk about why you included that into, because that's my focus, the people who do nothing.
Yeah. It's a little bit akin to Kendi's idea that either you're an anti-racist or you're a racist. There's no in between. I think Jesus has kind of the same view. Jesus's teaching is always, do not look away. Do not look away from those who are suffering, because they are you. They are part of your flesh. They are also part of God's flesh and the Jesus way of thinking. All are children of God. So radical love means you embrace it's very hard. You embrace the people who are in some ways offensive to you, whom your society might regard as losers. Nobody is beyond the reach of God's love. That's, of course, wildly contrary to the billionaire doctrine that these people are disposable. The quicker we starve them out, the better.
Yeah. And when you say nobody is beyond God's love, that actually includes Donald Trump. I hate to admit that.
That's right. And I've been reading about people and hearing about people. I heard the testimony of a Black minister who struggled in his church to include a prayer for the president of the United States, which is used to be kind of normal in Christian churches. You pray for the leaders, including the president. I know at the All Saints Church in Pasadena, which you're familiar with, they stopped praying for George W. Bush. I think.
Oh no,
it was like unacceptable to the parishioners. They dropped that. It's hard. This is hard. It's not easy. The other little passage I put in there is from Luke, where it's Lazarus, and the name is Dives for the rich man, but it's not in the Bible. So I don't know why the rich man got this name Dives, but he does zip to this beggar at his gate. He's in a mansion. The beggar's there all the time. He does absolutely nothing. And Jesus uses the idea that the rich guy, Dives, is burning up in hell, I say, as an illustration of how it actually destroys your soul to separate yourself from humanity. So no one knows. It's a mystery. No one knows. Did Jesus of Nazareth believe in a literal heaven or hell? I don't know. But I do know that every time he talks about eternal punishment, he's talking about separation from God, separation from love. I didn't do this in this article, but someday we should talk about anxiety about the afterlife in relation to the origins of capitalism. There's a very rich debate on this. That Max Weber, the German sociologist, said, well, it's Calvinism. It's the Calvinists who don't know whether they're in the elect or not. That is clearly correlates to the rise of capitalism in the Netherlands and in England. But a couple of years ago, a Harvard type, Benjamin Friedman, I think Harvard Business School, did his own thing on the religious origins of capitalism. And he said, no, it's not them, because they know they've got no choice in the matter. Calvin says God has decided, without any reference to how you behave. You could be the worst drunk, adulterer, murderer in the world. If you're in the chosen, doesn't really matter. And there's nothing you can do about it. Friedman says, no, it's the people Calvin opposed, the Arminians, the people who said, no, you can in fact earn eternal rewards. They're the ones who started capitalism, because they're like making a point. Look at us. we're working like beavers here.
Oh, oh. Well, we could have this discussion for hours, Peter.
I know theology is not I think your audience is not really interested in the finer
Uh,
points
They're not. They're
of
not,
theology.
but I
No,
am.
I know you are. I know you are.
And we so appreciate you contributing this kind of content because, I love the idea that so many pastors support this idea that Jesus is about justice, not so much about charities, just, doing the right thing and caring for the most marginalized and oppressed. And that's why we want to carry this content.
Well, and guess what? It took a while, but I think the savagery of the ICE operations in so many places has brought out now some otherwise timid religious leaders who have said, "Wait a minute, enough is enough," and they're coming out to the front lines. Some of them are being arrested. If you look at now the activity in Charlotte, a lot of clergy there, a lot of faith leaders are saying, "No, no, no, wait a minute. No, we know these people. They come to our churches. We see them all the time. They're our neighbors."
Yeah, I just heard
and everyone belongs. Again, everyone belongs.
So I just heard a statistic, something like 95% of the people that ICE has detained have been engaged in no criminal act at all. Their only violation is in most cases is that they didn't have the proper documents, but even some had the proper documents. So no criminal activity, some had the proper documents, and some even were American citizens born here and have been detained. So I'm glad to hear that the church is getting involved. I imagine that this whole Jeffrey Epstein business is also causing more of this. There was the far right Christian nationalist arm of the Trump supporters were just unyielding. They were the most staunch supporters, and I'm hoping that what these revelations of what ICE has been doing and this whole Jeffrey Epstein matter is going to change that.
But I'd like to say it's kind of beyond religious leaders. I think a significant part in the Mamdani election, the 7 million people on the streets, the election of the two governors, the overwhelming Democratic, it wasn't so much Democratic as it was anti what the hell's going on. And I think people are really up in arms about all those things. I think even the murders, but Hegseth is so proud of showing them bombing these boats, and everybody's been in a speedboat. They're not going from Venezuela to Florida in a speedboat. And I think a fair number of people's stomachs are turned. The problem is, the next time that we can really take action on it, next fall's midterms, is a long way away, and people's memories are short.
That's why people have to stay engaged. They have to do things like share this content. They have to, no, I'm going to bring this up every time. You need to share this content and other independent media outlets that tell you, you're not going to hear the stories that we deliver. You're not going to get that on mainstream media. I'm sorry, Peter, you were about to say something.
No. Well, I mean, I'm into that. And guess what? You don't get it at all on Fox. I mean, there's a whole huge portion of the media sphere is blocked off from these realities. I don't know what to say about the midterms, except the most concerning thing to me is this redistricting race and disenfranchisement and the gutting of the Second Amendment. They're asking that the Supreme Court legitimate the complete gutting of the Second Amendment in January. Right. So that they can all do their work, and that that's this way. We're going to have to fight the battles of the 1960s all over again.
Yeah, but we're going to have to fight it in a smarter way so that we're not doing it again 20 years later. So we've got to get ordinary people to not stand by and simply do nothing. Thank you, Peter.
All right. Yeah.
But other than my trip to Vietnam, I kind of liked the 60s.
Yeah, right. Go ahead.
I was younger and more virile.
We won't go there just now.
I was 8 years old. So remember, we've talked about this. We would not have been able to have gotten married. So that's
true.
Anyway. All right. We could cut that from the tape now.
No. No, we won't.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I love you guys. I love you
Love you
guys.
too, Peter.
And Sharon, keep going with your thing. Make sure you deal with the white savior complex. I'm talking about
Yeah, that's a good
liberal
one.
racism.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, yes.
All right. All
Okay.
right.
Thank you for sticking around. If you like the LA Progressive content and the discussions we have here, please consider clicking the subscribe button below and also give us a thumbs up. That helps to grow our audience by feeding the algorithm, which helps to get this content in front of more eyes. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate your support.